Oh, just sticking black sticky notes on my computer. So you can't see the light in the video. Hi, welcome to another video. I am Shelby, and this is Little Coffee Fox. Welcome to my channel. If you don't know, I am a full-time blogger. I write and do photography and do art and graphic design and put it all on a website for the world to see, and that is my business. I have been a full-time blogger for, why do I always forget this? 3.5 years? Yeah, okay. It's 3.5 years. It's 3.5 years. Right? 2.5 or 3.5 years, whichever one is correct. Anyway, I have been full-time for approximately 3 years, and I get a lot of questions from people asking me how this happened. So, story time. I am going to tell you how I went from being a person who was planning on getting a PhD in psychology to being a full-time content creator online. So first, I feel like I ought to start with me as a kid, because that's where life kind of starts for everybody. Honestly, I was a pretty normal kid. I just was really creative. I was that kid who always had a crayon in my hand. Apparently my family likes to tell me that I kept eating crayons as a kid, and so my extended family, who didn't know that fact, kept getting me crayons for Christmas, and I kept eating them. I mean, who wouldn't eat crayons? They look delicious. So when I was a little bit older, like in middle school and high school, I took my art classes really seriously. They were my favorite classes by far. And I always had people telling me that I should be an artist when I grew up. And even then, even when I was like a 6th grader, I knew that that was not gonna happen. There's this very pervasive idea in our culture of the starving artist, of people dropping everything and moving to LA to become an artist or an actor or musician, and then waiting tables until they give up on their dream and go get a real job. Even as a kid, I had this sort of imbued in me, and I knew that it wasn't realistic to pursue a career in art. But when I was in high school, I took full advantage of the gamut. I did choir, I did AP art classes, I did theater. I was a huge theater nerd. So much so that whenever I went to college at Wichita State University, my freshman year, I actually was a double major. I was psychology and theater. But it wasn't too long into my 2nd semester when I went ahead and just dropped the theater thing because, again, it didn't feel like it was a realistic thing for me to pursue. It didn't feel like there was going to be a stable career at the other end of that. So I put that aside and I focused on something more concrete, which was psychology. And with that, I planned on going on and getting like a master's or even a PhD perhaps. And then in my senior year of college, I was filling out random credits just to complete everything. And I took a class, I don't even remember what the class was about, honestly. It was something about graphic design of some variety. And for that class, we had to build our own website at the very end to showcase our knowledge and abilities. So around May of 2015, which was just at the very end of my semester, I decided to start a blog. I thought it would be fun and maybe it would make some kind of a side revenue. I don't know, I had some idea that I'd like it to make me money, but I didn't really have any idea how that would work. And I started a site called littlecoffeefox.com. Why that name? Because I like foxes. I am little, and littlefox.com was taken, so I found a bunch of other things and tried them out, stuck them in the middle. Coffee was available, so Little Coffee Fox was born. So to give you a little perspective, the timeline of the summer of 2015 was completely bonkers. I finished up college. John and I had just got married like 2 weeks before I graduated college. And then about a month after I graduated, we packed up and moved from Wichita, Kansas all the way to Champaign, Illinois, which is where we are now. So once we got to Champaign, John started law school, which if you're not familiar, law school is 3 years, and then you graduate, you get barred, and you go on to become a lawyer. But that meant that we had to stay in Champaign for 3 years, which for my big plans to go on and go to grad school, that was tough because at that point I had finally narrowed down my psychology niche to something called human factors. I'm still interested in it. It's a really cool field. It's a really small field, and there's not a lot of programs in the United States that carry human factors. So it's not a big surprise that there wasn't a program in Champaign. My plan was I was going to wait 3 years for John to go all the way through law school, and then he was going to get a job in Chicago. We were going to move to Chicago. One of the schools up there had the program, so I was going to go to school there. That was the grand plan. During that first year in Champaign, I got a job as a research assistant, but that was just a part-time gig. It was just kind of an as-needed thing. So I also got a job at a local business being a receptionist. That job ended up being just, it sucked, and I hated it. Despite having 2 part-time jobs, an active social life thanks to our law school friends, and a fairly new marriage, I was bored. I was spending a lot of time alone without something to do. The earliest version of Little Coffee Fox was crap. It was really bad. I wrote about everything. Anything I was interested in was something I made a blog post into. I had no concept of niching down to a particular subject or even a few subjects, so it's not really a big shock with sort of this scattered approach that I didn't get anywhere. No one cared. Like, less than 100 page views a month made me start to really feel like maybe this wasn't actually gonna go anywhere. And I got disheartened and I quit. I sort of just stopped updating it, stopped messing with it, and let it go dry for a little while and sort of forgot about it. I probably put it down sometime in mid-fall of 2015, so I only worked on it for like 3 or 4 months before I kind of set it aside. So when we got a notification that the domain name for littlecoffeefox.com was expiring in 2 months, so this would have been in March or so, I thought, you know, I might as well give it another shot, just kind of play around with it and see what happens. Actually, I was pretty skeptical about it. John was the one who encouraged me to make a last-ditch attempt to just make something of it. I had tasted the bitter fruit of rejection and I was ready to let it rot, but John encouraged me to try again, try something new. So I did. Around that time that I was still on the fence about whether or not I'd take another stab at blogging, I started an Instagram account and shared a photo of my bullet journal, I think, and I actually got a little bit of engagement. People were liking it. Not a lot, but enough to make me think maybe there's something that I can share with the world after all. So that led me to write my first post about the bullet journal. What was that first post? I think that very first post may have actually been how to start a bullet journal. Suddenly the numbers on the site got a bump. For the first time, there was some actual traffic on the site. People were coming to read this post. So I wrote another post, and I'm pretty sure that was 30 ways to use a blank notebook. I think that was my second post, real post ever. And that did really well, and people were really engaging with it and commenting, and there was something there. So we re-upped the domain name, and I kept at it. I kept writing about the bullet journal. The thing I didn't know was that I started writing about the bullet journal right before it became extremely trendy and just shot up in popularity. I was one of the very, very few websites that had anything about the bullet journal. It was largely unheard of at that point, and there was just suddenly this hunger for bullet journal stuff. People couldn't get enough, so suddenly my numbers went crazy. In the span of a single month, I went from less than 10,000 page views a month to over 100,000 page views a month. It shot up. For the first time, ever, I was creating something and sharing it with the world, and people were enjoying it. They were coming back, they were responding, and that felt really, really good. It felt nice to be heard, to be appreciated, to be validated, to find other people who were interested in the same things that I was. That was intoxicating. So I kept doing it. After that first lucky break, I kept making more stuff. I would make new content, new posts about the bullet journal. I'd share on Instagram. The more I shared, the more I wrote, the more engagement I got. And the more engagement I got, the more inspired I was to keep exploring and finding new content to share. Now, during all of this, I was still planning on going to grad school. I didn't know what the future of Little Coffee Fox was. I knew it was going well and I liked it, but it just kind of felt like a side thing for a really long time. So I was still planning on going to grad school. But in order to go to grad school, you have to take some kind of a test. It's not the MCAT and it's not the LSAT. It's the other one, the general one, the GRE. It's the GRE, right? Probably. I'm gonna roll with that. It's been a while. I don't remember. But I hated it. I hated every second of studying for that thing. It was so, I hated it. And I was avoiding it like the plague. I was procrastinating it. And as time wore on, I realized that I was avoiding the things that I needed to do to prepare for grad school, like studying for the GRE or making connections with professors, all of that stuff. I was avoiding all of that and focusing my time and energy on this website. And I realized that if I'm avoiding all of this stuff for my career as vehemently as I was, then that kind of shows an underlying issue with that whole thing. If I can't even study just to get into the school, how am I going to deal with a master's program? That was when I realized that my passion really was in blogging. This is what made me happy. This is what made me excited to get up every single morning, not psychology, which still very cool. Very much enjoy psychology. I can talk it up and down if you get a cocktail in my hand. But this is what I was doing. This is what I wanted to do. And it seemed ridiculous. It seemed impossible, but here it was. It was working. It was succeeding. And I was beginning to make money from it, which was not at all what I expected. Finally, after about a year of Little Coffee Fox being successful and revenue positive, I realized that it was time for me to just throw in, go full time, just commit and spend all my time on it. It was growing like crazy and I needed to grow with it. So I made the absolutely terrifying decision of quitting both of my jobs. So I quit my jobs, and I have been doing this ever since. We upgraded apartments from a 1-bedroom apartment where I had to work in the living room to a 2-bedroom apartment where I could have my own office, my own space. And then this last summer we upgraded again and bought this house. Now this is our base, this is where we work. And I say we because I roped John into this. Now, I shouldn't say I roped him into this. I mean, he's been there since the beginning. He encouraged me to start this whole thing in the first place, and he's been by my side helping to make sure the site's running well. He learned code for this. As Little Coffee Fox got bigger, he stepped up and he started doing that in his spare time. And then somewhere around halfway through law school, about a year and a half in, he realized that he really liked doing this too. So he ended up finishing law school, taking the bar, passing the bar. He's an attorney, barred and licensed in the state of Illinois, and then he turned around and joined me full-time, and he's been doing that for a year and a half. So we've been working together, living together, been a married couple, business partners, all of it. That brings us to now. I mean, that's it. That's the story. Was I extremely lucky along the way? Yes. Was I extremely privileged to have the opportunities to pursue this crazy thing? Also yes, but I've also worked my ass off for this business. I have worked harder for this site than I have ever worked for anything in my entire life. And while it is not perfect, it is not all sunshine and rainbows, there are some really hard things about this job. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. It is truly a pleasure to be able to get up every day and do this for my job. It's a very unorthodox path, and it's not something I would just straight up recommend that anyone quit their job and pursue being a blogger or a YouTuber or something. But I would definitely recommend that if you're interested in something, if you want to try it, try it. I almost didn't do this. I almost let the domain name expire, and this whole business, this whole website would never have existed. It would have just vanished because of fear of rejection, a fear of trying something that might fail. But I tried, and look where it got me. Basically, if you are thinking about doing this, just try it. Just put some feelers out there, put some stuff out there, give it a shot, do your research, see if you can have a better first start than I did, and don't be afraid to risk a little bit. Don't quit your job until you feel like you've got a little bit of something cooking up. Don't just quit your job on a whim, but don't be afraid to pursue something that is crazy and off the beaten track, because you never know where it will take you. So that's it. That's the origin story of Little Coffee Fox and how everything came to be. If you like this video, please like it and let me know so I can make more content like this. And please subscribe so you can see more videos in the future. Well, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm gonna go. So I will catch you later. Bye.